This is the iPhone that longtime Apple users have been waiting for. The iPhone X brings back the thrill of the original iPhone, which was introduced 10 years ago. It breathes new life into the product line with an eye toward the future, while providing plenty of functionality for today. What makes the iPhone X exciting? First, there's the TrueDepth camera, used for Face ID, Apple's new security feature, as well augmented reality. Then there's the OLED display, which is so good looking, you may make the iPhone X your primary device to look at pictures and watch video. And last but not least, there's the A11 Bionic processor, which brings the iPhone to a new level of performance. The iPhone X also has a bunch of other great features, new cameras, a bigger screen in a smaller form factor, and a new beautiful physical design. In all, the iPhone X is a remarkable achievement by Apple, and at $999, 64 GB, and $1,149, 256 GB, one that you'll pay a pretty penny for. Let's go over the main features of the iPhone X. I've ordered them according to what I think buyers will want to know about most. You can click on the table of contents links to skip around if there's a feature you really want to get to. iPhone X, Face ID. iPhone X Face ID setup. Roman Loyola. Setting up Face ID is very easy and takes a couple of minutes. The iPhone X feature that's gotten the most attention is Face ID, Apple's technology for unlocking the iPhone X and authenticating your ID. It replaces Touch ID, Apple's fingerprint technology that served the same purpose. I'm not going to dive into the details on how it works in this review, as we have a Face ID FAQ that covers that information. Setting up Face ID is easy. In a process similar to Touch ID, where the home button records several impressions of your fingerprints, the Face ID setup has you move your head in different angles as the TrueDepth camera system records different spots on your face. It takes a few minutes, and then it's ready to go. Face ID only allows a single person to register his or her face. Touch ID, conversely, allows you to register different fingers, which means you can register the fingerprints of other people who you want to have access to your device. This is handy if you're okay with, say, your significant other having access to your iPhone. Maybe Face ID's one face limitation will change if Apple decides to use Face ID on the iPad, a device that's more likely to have multiple users. iPhone X Face ID setting. Apple by default, Face ID requires your eyes to be open in order for it to work, but if you go into Settings, Face ID and Passcode and turn off the Require Attention for Face ID setting, Face ID will work when you have your eyes closed. I had some concerns about Face ID because Touch ID has become seamlessly integrated into how I use my iPhone. But as it turns out, there was nothing to be concerned about. In fact, Face ID actually delivers more seamless integration than Touch ID. When it works, Face ID works really well. At first, I had a tendency to wait for the lock icon on the screen to unlock, but the key is to not wait. You should swipe up to get to the home screen as you're looking at the iPhone X. It takes some practice, but before too long, unlocking the phone feels effortless. I've had conversations with Android users who've tried the iPhone X, and their main beef with Face ID is that it's too slow compared to a fingerprint scanner. But in their limited time with the iPhone X, they're not accessing the home screen in the manner I described above, and since they're not invested in the iPhone, they're not willing to learn, either. It's still true that access to the home screen using Face ID isn't as fast as using a fingerprint scanner, but it's maybe a half-second slower at most. If that half-second is all the difference to you, then I hope you're using that time wisely. Using Face ID with some third-party apps is done in a manner similar to that of Touch ID. For example, with the app for my bank and with Dropbox, the login screen appears, and then a Face ID icon appears, and then the app unlocks. It's really no different than how Touch ID was implemented in those two apps. It's no more convenient. Face ID Dropbox. Dropbox third-party apps like Dropbox have updated its apps with Face ID support. Face ID has a certain viewing angle you need to be within to work, which is where I have a very minor issue with the technology. I try to keep my personal correspondence on my iPhone when I'm using my work laptop, and the iPhone X lays on my desk to the side. When I get a text, I can see it on the earphone's lock screen. On the iPhone 6 Plus, I use Touch ID to unlock my iPhone while it's still at my side. But with the iPhone X, my face is out of range of the TrueDepth camera. The solution to this minor issue: move the iPhone X in a new location so it's within range of my face. I have also found that Face ID works when the iPhone X is in my car mount, which is attached to an air vent to the right of the steering wheel. Apple is very confident in Face ID's security, stating that it's much more secure than Touch ID. Many other publications have tried to see if they can trick Face ID, with their results matching what Apple has said, that twins can bypass Face ID. Since I don't have access to twins, I didn't test this, but Face ID wasn't fooled when I tried to have my two sons access the iPhone X. A recent Wired story says that hackers have been able to crack Face ID by creating a mask, which essentially means that a nefarious person needs to pull off some Mission Impossible type antics. Likelihood of this happening to you? I'd say almost nil. Apple has said a lot about how it believes augmented reality is going to be a big deal, and we've seen AR apps, like IKEA, the machines, an AR measure kit. There are even rumors of Apple working on an AR wearable. The TrueDepth camera will have a big role in AR, and Apple demonstrated how it can be used with its recent release of Clips 2.0. Clips uses the TrueDepth camera so it can filter out background objects for its selfie scene feature, and the app can use you in the foreground for a virtual scene. Other than some issues with clipping your foreground image, the selfie scene implementation works quite well. Expect to see a lot of fun and innovative apps that use the TrueDepth camera coming soon in the App Store.